A confident person can act quickly because they understand the situation. A careless person acts quickly because they do not want to think. Imagine someone receives an angry message. Without thinking, they reply immediately with harsh words. A few minutes later, they regret it. The relationship becomes damaged. Trust becomes weaker. All because of one emotional reaction. Now imagine a wise person in the same situation. They read the message. They feel angry. But they pause. They breathe. They wait. They think, what result do I want from my reply? Then they answer calmly. The situation becomes easier to handle. This is the power of thinking before acting. A foolish person is controlled by the moment. A wise person thinks about the result. This also happens with money. Some people buy things because they feel excited. They do not ask, do I need this? They do not ask, can I afford this? They do not ask, will this help my future? They just buy. Later they feel stressed. The problem was not only money. The problem was acting without thinking. This also happens with goals. Some people start something because they feel motivated for one day. Then they quit after a few days because they never made a real plan. They acted from excitement, not wisdom. A wise person does not depend only on emotion. They think. They plan. They prepare. They ask better questions. Before speaking, they ask, is this helpful? Before deciding, they ask, what could happen next? Before reacting, they ask, will I regret this later? Before starting, they ask, what is my plan? These questions protect your future. Thinking before acting does not make you slow. It makes you smart. A short pause can save you from a long regret. Tip to avoid this habit. Use the pause rule. Before you speak, decide, reply, spend money, or react emotionally. Pause for a few seconds. Take a breath. Ask yourself, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? What will happen after this? Will this help me or hurt me? This small habit can change your life. Because many problems are created in moments of emotion, but the results can last for years. A foolish person reacts first and regrets later. A wise person pauses first and chooses better. Think before you act. Because one calm decision can protect your peace, your relationships, your money, and your future. Sign 6. They refuse to learn and grow. One of the saddest signs of a foolish person is refusing to learn and grow. Life is constantly changing. The world is constantly changing. Technology changes, skills change, opportunities change, knowledge changes. A person who refuses to learn eventually gets left behind. Many people think growth stops after school. They believe that once they become adults, learning is no longer necessary. This is a dangerous belief, because learning is not something you do for a few years. Learning is something you do for life. Think about successful people. Most of them are lifelong learners. They read books. They listen to experts. They learn new skills. They ask questions. They stay curious. Why? Because they understand that growth creates opportunities. The more you learn, the more valuable you become. The more valuable you become, the more opportunities appear. A foolish person often says, I already know enough. I don't need to learn that. I'm too old to learn. Learning is not important. These thoughts may feel comfortable, but they are extremely dangerous. Comfort often prevents growth. Imagine a person who refuses to learn new technology. At first, nothing seems wrong. But year after year, the world moves forward. Eventually, that person struggles because their skills are outdated. The same thing happens in every area of life. A person who stops learning stops improving. A person who stops improving often becomes stuck. Think about English learning. Some learners practice every day. They read, they listen, they improve. Other learners stop learning because progress feels slow. Years later, the difference becomes enormous. Not because one person was more talented, but because one person continued growing. Growth is powerful. Even small improvements can create huge changes over time. Learning one new idea every day may seem insignificant, but after 1 year, those small lessons become valuable knowledge. After 5 years, they can completely transform your life. Another reason growth matters is confidence. When you learn new things, you prove to yourself that you are capable. You become more adaptable. You become more prepared for life's challenges. You become stronger mentally. The truth is that growth often feels uncomfortable. Learning new skills requires effort. Making mistakes requires humility. Starting as a beginner requires courage. That is why many people avoid growth. But the temporary discomfort of learning is much better than the long-term pain of remaining stuck. Remember this powerful truth. If you're not growing, you are standing still. And while you stand still, the world keeps moving forward. Tip to avoid this habit. Commit to learning something new every day. Read books. Listen to educational content. Learn new skills. Ask questions. Stay curious. You do not need to learn for hours. Even a few minutes of learning every day can create extraordinary results over time. Remember, growth is a choice. And every day you choose growth, you invest in a better future. Sign 7. They ignore good advice. The final sign of a foolish person is ignoring good advice. Life gives us many teachers. Parents, mentors, friends, books, experts, experience. These teachers often provide valuable lessons. But a foolish person ignores them. Sometimes the advice is simple. Sometimes it is powerful. Sometimes it could prevent years of struggle. Yet they refuse to listen. Why? Because they think they already know better. Or because they do not want to change. Or because their ego gets in the way. Think about how valuable good advice really is. A person may spend 10 years learning a lesson. Then they share that lesson with you in a few minutes. If you listen, you can benefit from their experience. If you ignore it, you may repeat the same mistakes. This is one reason wise people seek mentors. They understand that learning from others can save time, money, and pain. Imagine someone giving financial advice. They warn you about a common mistake. You ignore them. Years later, you experience exactly the problem they described. The lesson was available, but you refuse to accept it. This happens in many areas of life. People ignore health advice. Then they suffer health problems. People ignore relationship advice. Then they face relationship difficulties. People ignore career advice. Then they struggle professionally. The issue is not always a lack of information. Often the issue is a lack of willingness to listen. Now, this does not mean you should follow every piece of advice. Not all advice is good advice. Wise people think carefully. They evaluate information. They consider the source. They use judgment. But when advice comes from experience, wisdom, and knowledge, they pay attention. A foolish person often dismisses advice immediately. A wise person examines it carefully. Another important lesson is that advice often sounds boring. People prefer exciting shortcuts. They prefer quick success. They prefer easy answers. But good advice is often simple. Work hard, be disciplined, Save money, keep learning, take care of your health, control your emotions, stay consistent. These ideas may not sound exciting, but they work, and that is why they have survived for generations. The challenge is not hearing good advice. The challenge is following it. Many people know what they should do. Very few people actually do it. That is the difference. Knowledge is valuable, but applied knowledge is powerful. The person who follows good advice often avoids many unnecessary problems. The person who ignores good advice often learns lessons the hard way. Life will teach everyone eventually. The question is whether you learn through wisdom or through pain. Tip to avoid this habit. Whenever someone experienced gives you advice, do not reject it immediately. Pause and consider it. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Why are they saying this? Could this help me avoid a mistake? Keep an open mind. Stay teachable. And never let your ego become more important than your growth. Remember this powerful truth. A foolish person ignores wisdom and repeats avoidable mistakes. A wise person listens, learns, and grows. The lessons of others can become shortcuts to your success if you are willing to listen.